I think I noticed that all of the conditions were accepted by the subdivision committee. I think they did a great job in analyzing this, so I don't think I'll have a real problem with approving it. As far as the additional variance of the positioning of the two structures, I'm pretty flexible there. I had a question. I didn't hear the discussion on that maybe as well as other comments. Is the intent of the developer to have the orientation to the trail or the front or rear? You know, what was the intent? If I could ask them to explain that. I apologize for asking them to come up again.
Yeah, the intent, well, they have a front and a backyard, and the backyard is what opens up to the trail, and that's kind of a consistent theme of all those cottages along that area, and it really it's something that's been laid out for quite a while, and I just simply think that we probably missed the fact that we should have, that by code we needed to orient it that way. And I was going through the comments this afternoon, and I just missed the fact that I didn't get a chance to discuss this with Harry, and I apologize for that. So, yeah, the intent is to have a backyard facing up to the trail, as just like the other units, front door faces to the parking lot. So I know that we'd like to aim to have all the units be front facing the public street. There's just these two corners that are a bit odd, and so you know, we're all kind of like you, or the owners, the development team's flexible, but we'd like to be consistent with the rest of the units right there. And if there's a chance we can modify them or leave them as they are, you know, that's our preference, is leave them as they are. It just makes sense with the rest of the development. But you know, whatever y'all like to discuss it with you, it's not a hard line right now.
Thank you very much.
Yeah, thanks.
My opinion about that, after getting a better understanding, I like the idea of having the orientation of the backyard onto the trail. I think what will happen is people will use that backyard and that'll get more eyes on the trail from the standpoint of safety than it would be having the front of the building on it. So I don't have a problem with permitting a variance to allow the developer to continue on with their design plan of having rear building access looking onto the trail. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Chair. Mr. Scroggins. I don't believe the subdivision subcommittee talked about those two orientations, but I would be in favor in adding additional variance to have those line up with the rest of the houses.
Okay. Thank you.
Yep. Mr. Chair?
Commissioner Bell.
I think this development meets many of the criteria that we have in our 2030 goals. I think in what ways this type of development can. I think that the walkability will be better encouraged if we do grant a variance for those two units, because turning their back on their neighbors and making it further for them to walk to their neighbors just doesn't seem to be conducive to a good neighborhood. I'm appreciative of the quantity of what appears to be green space in this plan. That was one of the things that I noticed, and were it to be developed with its zoning, just as a typical, you know, do a lot here, do a lot there, I don't think that we would get this sensitive a plan, one that is so sensitive to the environment. So I feel comfortable in we approve it, send it for approval.
Yes.
Yes. With the additional variance, with all the other conditions in this additional variance.
That was your motion? Okay, okay, good. No, no, I'm not putting words in your mouth.
All right, I'll make a motion.
The motion.
I move that we approve, large-scale development 17-6030, with all of the conditions of approval, the variances that are listed and the conditions of approval, with the additional variance of, allowing the 2 units that do not conform to our urban design standards to remain facing the direction in which they're designed.
Second.
Mr. Chair,
Commissioner Quinlan.
I apologize to hop in late with comments, guys. I have 2 quick questions. The first one is on the additional variance we're adding. Looking through the elevations that have been attached, it appears as though all of them have windows and doors and are, I'm not sure that they've been fully reviewed, but appear to still be very welcoming to both directions. I think that's appropriate, except for one, and the sheet is labeled A5.14, I think, and that appears to be the only cottage that the back of the unit really has no windows, and there's a very small porch, so I think that one might be one we want to consider. I'm not even sure if it's in the location that the variance would be requested, but I think that's one we might want to consider not including in that. All of the rest appear to be fine. And second question is to, I don't see an urban forester here, but it appears on the urban forestry worksheet that the pull-down section for the zoning that was selected is I2 general industrial, which puts us at a 15% required tree preservation, and as RMF 12, this one's actually a 20% tree preservation requirement. That might just be a typo in our packet, but I think that's something that would be worth one more double check. Since that, to our public comment, this is an important area to make sure we're ensuring tree preservation to the maximum extent.
Mr. Chair.
Yes, sir, Mr. Davis.
Commissioner Quinlan, the cottage that you're referring to, is that a single-family cottage?
I'm not sure. It's a lot of our text is kind of blurry just based on the image quality. It's a white one that looks like board and batten.
White one.
And it's the only one that the rear elevation is blank.
What was the sheet number again on that?
A5.14.
You're referring to this right here?
Yes.
Installation?
Right,
you.
so that's a single-family home. We don't have design standards for single-family homes.
Since they're not on single-family lots, so the lots are not less than, it doesn't kick into our small lot design standards. Okay, thank you. Problem solved then. So to the second question of tree preservation.
Right, let me try to figure that out.
Okay.
Thanks.
You might have the applicant address that. They did the tree preservation plan,
Thank you,
since we
Mr.
don't have
Chair.
our staff here.
Yeah, that's a good question. I noticed that today. It wasn't like that in all the previous comments. We are well above, and that's, if you, it's not in there in detail, but, we are we're keeping above the minimum. We're planting more, we were gonna plant more trees regardless of the parking variance, so while it may be 30, we're still, I think, we're way above that, I wanna say. But this, and that's something that we brought up at subdivision committee. We've got, amenity space, and we've got 2 different architects, and we've got several different teams involved with this out of state. And so, you know, what we're showing right now in this submittal is basically the minimum, and everything we're gonna do in the next phase is gonna be above and beyond that. So, I know that there was some conversation with the floodplain. I mean, just in general terms, it doesn't, we're at 67% open space for the development. We don't do a lot of those, you know, in town, especially student housing. So in terms of open space, the trees we're planting back, the trees we're preserving, we're real happy with the way the ownership took. You know, and they've owned this property for some time now, so I want to say 7, 8 years. We've gone back and forth on different layouts. They've been real amenable, and they, you know, first, it was, the same old thing, you know, we had 10 different layouts, but the ownership has been completely open to, Fayetteville's guiding policies and the way this product ended up being developed, so, that is a typo, and our percentages are above the minimum, so.
Okay.
But that's a good catch on that.
Thanks for clarifying, and it appears as though both of those comments shouldn't affect the current motion, so thanks for working through this.
Absolutely. All right, we have a motion on the floor by Commissioner Belden, second by Commissioner Scroggins. Mr. Garner?
Autry,
Yes?
Quinlan,
Yes.
Johnson,
Yes.
Belden,
Yes,
Peterman,
Yes.
Brown,
Yes.
Scroggins,
Yes.
motion passes.
The next item on the agenda is large-scale development, 17-6050, 1100 West 15th Street, Pinnacle Foods Edition. The request is for a warehouse of addition of approximately 165,000 square feet and associated parking. Mr. Thompson.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. This project is on on 15th Street, north of 15th. It currently contains a factory built or begun in approximately 1966. It has 350,000 square feet already, so a very large facility, along with a very large addition. The applicant is proposing, as you said, a 164,000 square foot addition. I believe that would be a cooling facility, the entire square footage. Essentially a very large freezer with some expanded surface parking and truck and loading zones, parking and loading zones to go with that. The site is adjacent to 15th Street, which is partially improved, a 4-lane street. That's a principal arterial. We would, as a part of street improvements, be recommending that be fully completed in terms of 5-foot sidewalk at the back of right-of-way along a very large portion of the new site, along with street lights and street trees as usual to meet our master street plan section. Along with the street improvements, we'd be seeking, and code requires, some connectivity, access management issues be cleared up. The site currently has a number of non-conforming access points, and due to the size of this project, they are required to close a number of those, and they will be opening a new driveway, quite a large one, to serve trucks exclusively, I believe, or very nearly. That would be proposed as a non-conforming curb cut, and they are applicants requesting a variance for that. That would be within 250 feet of an existing adjacent driveway. It's actually further, the one I'm talking about now is further to the east. And it won't be on this site, it's on the site plan, but it would be approximately further, thank you, Andrew. Here it is, you can see it here. This one is a little bit too close, within, I think it's 160 feet or so to that existing driveway to a small multifamily project there. However, the applicant has worked with us to align that very carefully with Brooks Drive and in a location that we feel is the safest location for that. They do have room to meet the minimum separation requirement here. If they do that, we feel like it would be a less safe condition. We'd have some offsets and some turning movements that could be in conflict, and we do feel that it's an appropriate location at this point. That new driveway also has a 50-foot turning radius, where 20-foot is the maximum that's allowed. The applicant has submitted diagrams, auto-turn diagrams that have been in turn checked by our engineering staff, and we do agree that those are the minimum necessary, at least minimum necessary radii to make a safe condition there for the very large trucks that are turning in and out of this facility. And the applicant has worked with us to reduce the number of lanes there. So the driveway, or the drive is large, the radius is large, but we do feel that it is necessary to serve this facility. An additional driveway closure, and I believe Mr. Garner was trying to show you that a few minutes ago, that exists that would be required to be closed. We have three here that are very close together. The one that is furthest to the east there, just about where you see 15th Street, the applicant would like to, they've sought a variance in order to keep that one open. It is too close to an adjacent driveway, and staff's recommending against that variance. We feel that that could be closed and some of that parking drive aisle could be adjusted into the existing larger curb cut there without too much disturbance to the site. So we'll be recommending against that. Parking lot is also non-conforming on this site. You can see very large parking area, not a single parking tree on the property. When a development hits certain trigger points, and in this case, with an addition to an existing facility, that would be a 10% addition in square footage, and this project certainly meets that trigger. We do require, and it's actually a 46% increase in square footage for this site. Our code requires a 46% increase in parking lot landscaping to go along with that. The applicant has proposed, in this case, a number of additional parking lot trees along the west side of that parking lot, and additional street trees across the frontage and shrubs across the frontage of 15th Street, so that 15th Street's likely to look a lot different in a couple of years' time if this project is approved. We are in agreement with that. So we feel that outside of those three variances, that this project is meeting our development codes, and we're recommending in favor of it tonight with a couple of conditions. First one being your determination of those street improvements, approximately 670 feet of improved relocated sidewalk to be relocated at the back of right-of-way with street trees and street lights on the eastern section of this property. You can see it there. Number two, and subdivision committee did recommend in favor of this. Number two, planning commission determination of a variance of that minimum driveway separation on the east. Currently proposed is 163 feet. We do feel like it's safe and are recommending in favor of that as a safe location for that proposed drive. Again, subdivision committee recommended in favor there. Number three would be determination of variance for separation of the curb cut that is 48 feet from another existing one. We're recommending denial of that, finding it could be easily combined. Subdivision committee did not hear that one. It did not come up at that time, so they did not make a recommendation there. Number four, a determination of a variance requiring a 20-foot maximum curb radius. Again, we're recommending 50 as the minimum necessary to serve these large semi-trucks. And some more standard conditions of approval. Those are the major ones. If you have any questions about those or any others, please let me know.